I suppose that it leads us on then to the second question, which is kind of the counter side of the first question relating to goodness. And the question asks, who made the devil and why? Dr. perhaps you can kind of shed light on this from the Ahmadi Muslim perspective.
Yes, certainly. I think the question of creation is something that needs to be addressed. Creation of the universe. And if we look around the universe, we see that all that has been created, obviously, there must be a creator who has created this. Now, science has progressed thus far, and very advanced it is, but they are still unable to even create something, as I say, as simple, but something like the functioning of an eye. So that, I think, points to the fact that, of course, there has to be a creator who has created this, and therefore that is there for us to do. Now, as Imam Sahib has obviously elaborated on the fact that all the attributes of Allah are towards goodness, and this is what we know as light. So this is an aspect of our life, is that here is a creator who has created us, and he is light, and towards him we obviously are magnetized and attracted to him. However, when we detract ourselves from that light, then we are putting ourselves towards darkness and away from that goodness. And that is the concept of good and bad. So it is sort of a negative aspect of goodness that leads to towards evil, if you have. Now, we have within ourselves created, there is a Satan that exists in us all, and that is the temptation that we have to do wrong things. Now, if we fall into that trap and let that Satan overtake our lives and go against the commands of Allah, then we are going towards evil and towards the devil. Whereas if our aspirations and our efforts and everything is towards what the commandments of Allah have been, and to worship Allah as He has created us, then that obviously detracts us from evil and moves towards goodness. So that is the balance of evil and good.
Well, if I have to comment on this question, I would say that according to the Holy Quran, Allah Almighty is the ultimate creator of everything. Allah Almighty says in the Holy Quran, Khaliqu kulli shayn, that He is the creator of everything. So maybe they are angels, maybe they are devil, they are Satan, good or bad things. Everything, Allah Almighty is responsible for their creation. So that answer is there. But I think the second part of the question is quite a delicate issue, that why God Almighty has created devil and Satan, you can say. Actually, as I just mentioned, that Allah Almighty has created angels as well and Satan as well. So therefore, these are to be taken like two different types of forces. Forces of goodness and forces of wickedness. So these are the things which are impressing or influencing the man who is standing in the middle. God Almighty created the human beings with certain faculties, certain powers of judgment, powers of decision making, and God Almighty says that, look, now we have sent you to this world for a limited period of time, and there are two things which are going to affect you. The angels from the right side calling to goodness, and the Satan on the other side calling you to bad things. Now it is up to your judgment to which side do you respond, to which side do you turn. But look, we have given you the power to think and to make the judgment, and whatever decision you make, you would be held responsible for that. If you make the right decision, you will be rewarded. If you make the wrong decision, then you will be punished for that. So this is how Allah Almighty has created, and this thing is also mentioned in the Holy Quran. Allah Almighty says that mentioning this whole divine scheme of creation, Allah Almighty says in one place, لِنَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ, that we want to see how do you behave in this life, whether you go that way or that way. And أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا لِنَنْظُرَ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, that's another verse which says that we want to see who among you is good in his deeds, so that accordingly he may be rewarded like that. So this is why Allah Almighty has created, because Allah Almighty also created angels. So angels are there, the counterpart, the devil and the Satan is also there, and man is there to show his worth by listening to the command of God and submitting to that.
Jazakallah. I think that's obviously very clear, and hopefully it is clear for the listeners as well.